Welcome back, and now for the news in detail. In the US, the number of new coronavirus cases has crossed to over 100,000, the highest in the world. More in this report.
Countries continue to exert strict measures to contain the pandemic after it spreads to 202 countries and territories. As the death toll in the U.S. reaches nearly 1,700, President Donald Trump has signed the largest bailout package in the country's history, worth $2 trillion. Trump says the U.S. will produce 100,000 ventilators in 100 days, pledging to take care of domestic needs while also helping other countries.
Within the next 100 days, we will either make or get in some form over 100,000 additional units. And I guess to put it in other words, in the next 100 days, we'll receive over 3 times the number of ventilators made during a regular year in the United States. And that doesn't include all of the thousands and thousands that we've given to the various states, a lot of them.
The global health body says they are testing new vaccines to provide proper medicine in the market as soon as possible.
Today, we're delighted to announce that today in Norway and Spain, the first patients will shortly be enrolled in the Solidarity trial, which will compare the safety and effectiveness of 4 different drugs or drug combinations against COVID-19.
The World Health Organization has warned governments against using medications not scientifically proven to fight the pathogen.
In Spain, the death toll from the coronavirus has exceeded 5,000 after it reported 832 more fatalities in the past 24 hours. The total number of those infected rose to 72,248 from 64,000 on Friday. China's National Health Commission said 54 new cases were reported on the mainland, all of which were imported. It said the number of infections for mainland China stands at 81,394, with the death toll rising by 3 to 3,295. In Iran, the disease has claimed 139 more lives, bringing the country's tally to over 2,500. Italy recorded 969 deaths, the highest daily toll anywhere in the world, while the number of confirmed cases eclipsed the total in China. French health authorities reported 299 new deaths from coronavirus on Friday, taking the total to 1,995. The French government has decided to extend the national lockdown by 2 weeks, now due to end on 15th of April at the earliest. In Germany, the number of confirmed cases has risen to 48,582 and 325 people have died of the disease. As the COVID-19 continues to wreak havoc, 5 Arab countries have reported fresh cases of the infections. Morocco's health ministry said 13 new coronavirus cases were recorded, which brought the total number of infections to nearly 400. The ministry put the death toll from the disease at about 20, with 11 recoveries. In Palestine, 6 new infections were reported, taking the total cases to nearly 100. In Oman, the health ministry said 21 new infections were registered, which brought the total cases in the Gulf state to above 150. Sudan and Mauritania reported 5 cases each. At least 27,000 people have died from the deadly disease across the world. Over 131,000 people have recovered from the coronavirus pandemic worldwide. Data from the Johns Hopkins University show China has the highest number with nearly 75,000 recoveries. Other countries with the most recoveries are Iran with over 11,000, Italy with nearly 11,000, and Spain with over 9,300. Spain has also seen a sharp decrease in the rate of new infections, and officials say it is stabilizing. Infection cases in Spain rose to over 65,700, a 14% surge compared with 18% a day earlier and 20% on Wednesday. In Pakistan, one more COVID-19 patient has died in the last 24 hours as the government contains the spread of the virus through a countrywide lockdown. The Ministry of Health says the number of the infections across Pakistan has crossed 1,400, with 7 patients in critical condition. It says so far 11 people have died from the illness, while 25 have recovered. Meanwhile, a team of 8 Chinese doctors with medical supplies arrived in Pakistan to help the country in its fight against the outbreak. The medical aid includes testing kits, masks and medical gloves, along with over 200 ventilators. In India, millions of migrants have to walk hundreds of miles to reach home after the government imposed a 21-day lockdown to contain the coronavirus earlier this week. The Health Ministry has reported over 870 infections with 21 deaths across the country so far. Police cracked down on workers crossing state boundaries after the curfew was announced. The migrant workers have been left jobless with a sudden lockdown of the country. Huge numbers had crammed onto the trains and buses before the clampdown was enforced, but many others were left stranded.
We will reach our villages by foot in about 8 days. There we can manage to get some wheat from the fields at least.
In India, Anti-Citizenship Act protesters are living in fear after authorities publicly named and shamed them. The Indian government has been facing nationwide demonstrations against the controversial law since 11th of December. The situation has worsened after authorities put demand notices threatening fines and property confiscation outside their houses. The families of the accused said the notices have humiliated them in their locality. They accused police of religious discrimination, as 52 of the 57 accused are Muslims. On 16th of March, police asked 13 protesters to pay 2.1 million rupees in damages or face legal punishment. An Indian was reportedly among the 3 attackers who stormed a Sikh Gurdwara in Afghanistan's capital earlier this week. 25 Sikh worshippers were killed, while 8 others were wounded in the raid. Quoting security officials, Indian media said the attacker belongs to the southwestern state of Kerala. The report said after the attacks, ISIS uploaded the 29-year-old Indian citizen's photograph on its website. It said Mohsin alias Abu Khalid al-Hindi left India 2 years ago, and there is no information when he joined the terrorist group. ISIS Afghanistan offshoot Islamic State in Khorasan province claimed the responsibility for the attack. The Kabul administration says the Taliban haven't agreed to a ceasefire and instead increased violence against the Afghans. National Security Committee spokesperson Javed Faisal said the prisoners' release is a complex technical and legal process. The spokesperson said any propaganda against the exchange will sabotage the whole process. He said the number of prisoners to be swapped has been changing over the Taliban's violence. Earlier, Faisal said no Taliban delegation has arrived in Kabul to negotiate with the Afghan government. The European Union has called for an immediate solution to the political deadlock between all the parties in Afghanistan. In a statement, the bloc said with an increase in violence and the threat of the coronavirus, resolving the political situation is an even more urgent obligation. It said the bloc extends strong support to the institutions of Afghanistan. On Friday, Kabul announced a 21-member team to negotiate with the Taliban in a sign of progress in the Doha peace deal. Former Directorate of Security Chief Masoom Stanakzai will head the delegation. The list includes 5 women members, among politicians, former officials, and representatives of the civil society. Israeli warplanes have bombed multiple locations in the Gaza Strip. In a statement, the Israel Defense Forces says jets struck Hamas posts in retaliation to a rocket fired from the region. There are no immediate reports of the damage and the casualties caused by the airstrikes. Palestinian officials said Israeli Air Force jets struck several targets in the Hamas-run coastal enclave. The projectile was the first in almost a month when a rocket was fired towards southern Israel but landed inside the Gaza Strip. The raid comes as both the parties fight to contain the coronavirus. Turkey says it has killed 8 Kurdistan Workers' Party militants in an airstrike in northern Iraq. In a statement, Turkey's National Defense Ministry says the military's counter-terrorist operation was carried out in the Metina region. The ministry said Turkey will continue destroying weapon caches and shelters used by the terrorists. It said over 400 Kurdish militants have been killed in northern Iraq over the past 5 months. Turkey holds the PKK responsible for the deaths of some 40,000 people in a 30-year conflict. More stories to follow, but right after a short break. Stay tuned. Welcome back. Nigeria says it has killed at least 100 Boko Haram militants in northeastern Borno province. In a statement, the Nigerian military says the counter-terror operations were conducted by its troops and the multinational joint task force. The military said it conducted the operations in retaliation to the group's killing of 28 soldiers and wounding of 61 others in a terror attack on Monday. Boko Haram launched an insurgency in Nigeria in 2009, but later expanded it to neighboring Niger, Chad and Cameroon, prompting a military response. Earlier this week, Chad's President Idris Deby said Boko Haram killed at least 98 soldiers in an attack on the army base. The UN says more than 30,000 people have been killed and nearly 3 million displaced in a decade of Boko Haram terror activities in Nigeria. Guinea has voted in favor of change in the constitution that will allow President Alpha Condé to govern for 12 more years. Provisional results of the referendum show almost 92% of the voters supported the constitutional changes. The Electoral Commission says only 8% of the population was against the amendment. It says the voter turnout was 61% and the Constitutional Court has 8 days to confirm the results. The new constitution will limit presidential terms to 2 but extend the length of the term to 6 years. The referendum was conducted on 15th of March and was boycotted by the opposition. North Macedonia has officially joined the North Atlantic Treaty Organization. It has become the 30th member of the alliance after resolving a long-running name row with Greece. The move caps a successful week of diplomacy for North Macedonia after the EU agreed to start membership talks with Skopje. The US State Department says the Balkan Republic submitted its instrument of accession to NATO in Washington for the membership process to be completed. US Secretary of State Mike Pompeo says North Macedonia's NATO membership will support greater integration, trade, security and stability across the region. In February last year, NATO countries signed North Macedonia's accession protocol. After that, all the 29 national parliaments ratified the country's membership. Brazil's President Jair Bolsonaro continues to deny the threat of the novel coronavirus pandemic. Bolsonaro cast doubt on Sao Paulo's death toll, saying it seemed too large, and accused the state governor of manipulating the numbers for political ends. Bolsonaro repeated his commitment to protect Brazil's economy, saying hunger will kill more people than the pandemic. With infection cases topping 3,493 deaths, Bolsonaro has argued for normality while calling the virus a little flu. Meanwhile, Brazil's government commissioned a $1 million TV advertisement featuring the hashtag Brazil cannot stop. On Friday, the government barred foreigners' entry via airports, while Brazil's central bank unveiled a $7.8 billion credit line to help smaller companies pay their employees. Venezuela has opened an investigation into an attempted coup allegedly carried out by opposition leader Juan Guaido. Attorney General Tariq Saab said Guaido authorized the purchase of weapons to overthrow President Nicolas Maduro. It is not the first time President of National Assembly Guaido has been accused of wrongdoing by the government. In 2019, he was accused of hiding or falsifying his assets data, as well as receiving money from local and international organizations without justification. Saab also named retired General Cliver Alcala and Captain of the National Guard Antonio Torres among the accused.
A criminal investigation has been opened by the Public Ministry against Juan Guaido, General Alcala, and others involved in this attempted coup. In this regard, we have requested the arrest warrants against Oliver Alcala Cardones and Antonio Jose Secua Torres, which were agreed to by the court for crimes of treason against the homeland, illicit traffic of weapons of war, terrorism, and attempted assassination and association.
Cuba has slammed the U.S. for indicting Venezuela's President Nicolas Maduro on alleged narco-terrorism charges. In a tweet, Foreign Minister Bruno Rodriguez said that the MOVE Act is based on brazen lies. He said the U.S. government proves to be the main threat to peace in Americas at the time of the COVID-19 crisis. Earlier, Maduro lambasted Washington, branding his U.S. counterpart Donald Trump a racist cowboy. Venezuela's Foreign Minister Jorge Arreaza said drug trafficking charges against Maduro show the desperation of the U.S. elite. Yesterday, the U.S. State Department set up a bounty of $15 million for the information leading to Maduro's arrest and conviction. In Peru, villagers have burned hundreds of bats to death over fears that they could spread the novel coronavirus. Their phobia of the flying mammals seems to stem from a misunderstanding of genomic research showing the virus may have originated in the bats. More in this report.
Anxiety about the ongoing COVID-19 pandemic has now permeated every corner of the globe. Non-stop media updates, fake news on the internet, and a misunderstanding of scientific facts seems to be making things worse. Here in this village in Peru's Cajamarca province, residents have roasted some 300 bats alive, believing them to be responsible for the COVID-19 pandemic.
The people in a province of the Cajamarca region in our country has killed a group of bats, has burned them alive because of the belief that they transmitted the coronavirus.
While research has shown the new coronavirus could have originated in bats, this is still just a theory. Furthermore, experts say there's no question of bats transmitting the virus to humans.
We went to prevent this slaughter from continuing and also to educate the population about the species they were killing, which are not transmitters of COVID-19 and which are not transmitters of rabies either, because there were two fears of the coronavirus and of the rabies. Unfortunately, they had killed more than 300 bats and they managed to rescue more than 200, which have been relocated to other remote, more distant caves.
There are a number of other myths on the COVID-19 virus doing the rounds. These include allegations that it is a biological weapon and assumptions that it presents no danger to young people. However, none of these assertions can be taken seriously.
A US-based lab says it is unveiling a coronavirus test that can tell the positive results as early as 5 minutes. In a statement, Abbott Laboratories said the US Food and Drug Administration had given it the authorization to begin making the tests. It said the test is the size of a small toaster and uses molecular technology. The statement said a thorough search to definitively rule out an infection can take up to 13 minutes. It said the small portable test device will be available to healthcare providers for 1st of April. The company said it plans to supply 50,000 test kits a day. South Korean COVID-19 test kit manufacturer I1 Bio says it is swamped by orders from North America and Europe. The company adds it has 40,000 test kits ready for shipping, an amount that could be used to test 2 million individuals.
After Seoul's successful containment of the coronavirus, testing kits manufactured in the country have become a major export. 47 countries have reached out to South Korea asking to import COVID-19 diagnostic tools. Another 39 nations have requested them as humanitarian aid. The only problem is keeping up with the orders.
We are waiting for approvals of clinical tests from the United States, Italy, Switzerland and Mexico. And once we get green lights, we will ship off at least 40,000 test kits, amount that can run 2 million tests to those countries. Some countries also requested the kits without clinical tests. We expect the demand of our kits will be more than 5 million tests.
Biotech startup I1 Bio is just one of several companies mass-producing COVID-19 testing kits in South Korea. Despite having plenty of local competition, I1 Bio employees are regularly working overtime to keep up with the orders.
I left the office after midnight yesterday because they are in different time zones. My staff and I were working all night at home and here these days.
The US is one of South Korea's biggest customers for COVID-19 test kits. This includes both FDA-approved kits along with others approved by state governments. Demand for kits is expected to rise even further in the US over the coming weeks as coronavirus cases peak in the country. After South Korea, China is the biggest exporter of COVID-19 test kits.
American actor Tom Hanks and his wife Rita Wilson have returned to the US after spending 15 days in quarantine in Australia. The celebrity couple were photographed while driving in a vehicle in Los Angeles. Hanks and Wilson were among the first global celebrities to announce they tested positive for the disease. They were treated in a hospital in Australia and isolated themselves for a further period. Earlier, Hanks said it had been 2 weeks since their first symptoms and they were feeling better. NASA has procured a new SpaceX capsule to ferry cargo and supplies to the agency's planned lunar space station. National Aeronautics and Space Administration said the Dragon XL spacecraft will help astronauts collect lunar surface samples. SpaceX said the Dragon XL is optimized to carry over 5 metric tons of cargo to Lunar Gateway space station. SpaceX said the latest Dragon variant will be docked at the orbital station for 6 to 12 months per mission. NASA plans to build a Lunar Gateway outpost that will orbit the moon sometime within the next decade. SpaceX will get a portion of $7 billion NASA contract to use its biggest rocket Falcon Heavy to send Dragon XL spacecraft to the Lunar Gateway. American auto giant General Motors has reached a $120 million settlement over defective ignition switches. The preliminary settlement was filed with a federal court in Manhattan, with GM denying any liability. GM customers had claimed the vehicles lost value because of the faulty ignitions, while 124 deaths were also linked to the defective system. The company said it will contribute $70 million, while the rest will come from a trust established during the company's 2009 bankruptcy. A judge is yet to sign off the agreed payout, with the automaker already having paid out over $2.6 billion in penalties and settlements. GM has recalled over 2.6 million vehicles since 2014 over the malfunction that could cause engines to stall and prevent airbags from deploying. And now the weather situation from around the globe. And that's all for now. For the latest updates, you can follow us on social media @Indus.News.